Welcome to another edition of the Student Life Edvisors podcast. My name is Trey.
I'm Elaine.
And we are bringing to you another fantastic episode. This time, our topic is higher education success. So we're going to be breaking down what you need to do, things to be on the lookout for, the best tips, the best tricks for all of the good stuff. So let's just jump straight into it.
And we're definitely going to be adding our personal perspectives because we had our own little hiccups here and there to
Bumps
get to
in the road.
But the good thing is even if you have a hiccup, you can still do it.
I agree.
You can still get there.
I mean, you got your degree, right?
I did.
I got mine, so we made it through.
3 majors later.
I was just one. Just one for me.
Just one.
Just one for me, but nonetheless, we made it through. So first off, I mean, how do you get this thing started? What are some things that you should be on the lookout for going into college?
Oh man, what to be on the lookout for? Honestly, when it comes to higher education these days, like going to college, getting your degree, the format has changed so much. I think around when I was going to school, yeah, there were some online programs, some distance learning programs, but they were still the minority. It wasn't like everybody was doing online school.
That's true.
And now online school is so relevant to not even choosing an online program, but even though it seems like the pandemic is slowing down, COVID's slowing down, people are still getting sick and there's still like some pretty strict rules.
Yeah.
If you get sick, you don't really stop your life, but you continue it at home, quarantined, or away from other people.
Yes.
So the whole idea of being online now is just so relevant. It's just there. That's how people go to school these days. So I think it definitely brings in a whole new dynamic of making sure you're setting yourself up for higher education success.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that the individuals who are going into college now, a lot of them may be even coming from high school programs where they took classes online, and some individuals, even after the restrictions were lifted as far as the pandemic was concerned, still continued to take classes online and didn't return back to physical school. So when you mix that into the whole situation of going to college, it is different. The dynamic has changed.
And not only that, the weird thing is it's changed. It's just a matter of how you get in touch with your resources. And I wish I knew about resources the first day I walked in. I knew they were there. I just didn't really think my problems ever arose to the need of theirs when they definitely did. They far surpassed needing help. So I think one of the biggest things you need to do to advocate for yourself, no matter where you are, on campus, at home, is like you need to find, I call them your VIP offices. You need to know how to contact financial aid, academic advising, your registrar, health centers, different resources available to you, your library. You make sure you're set up to get in there if you need to have an ID card and that sort of thing. And I know printing isn't that big of a thing anymore, but if you do need to print, I remember like we were slowing down with like personal printers and we didn't have that much money for ink and paper. So we were going to our lounges on campus, our computer lounges, to get all our stuff kind of settled and printed before you had to go to class. So you had to definitely work through a lot of that.
Yeah, that's so true. I know for me, speaking of the library, I didn't know that our library was so advanced and had all this amazing technology. And even with the library, it's very different from your public library. You can check out those books for a long time. And if you're someone who has a pretty extensive research paper that you're working on, that's pretty advantageous to you. You don't have to, let me bring it back in 2 or 3 weeks like you'd have to do when you got a book when you were in middle school or something like that. These resources are there, and I do think that knowing what's available is extremely important because that'll ultimately help you in your journey from day one until you hit the graduation stage.
And in all honesty, living in a dorm and having all the distractions, sharing a room, especially freshman year, I shared a room with 2 other girls, so it was 3 of us.
Oh, goodness.
In a room. And even the common areas, like it was just hard to get away and find quiet space and find a good place to concentrate and, get through any work you need to go to. So I actually started using the library more as like a place to study. Now, I wasn't a big study group person. That was never my thing. But I'd like to go to a place where I could just be left alone in like my little cubby, no distractions, keeping my phone hidden away so I can't see it.
Stick it under the backpack.
But I mean, I use the library so much for that reason that even one day I got locked in.
Oh.
That they didn't realize there was anybody on the floor.
Oh, goodness.
We had some hidden cubes in between the stacks. And I used to like to go there because it was quiet. Not a lot of people were there. I wasn't paying attention at the time. And next thing you know, the lights shut off.
You were going in.
And I was like, please, somebody let me out.
Wow.
So thankfully I could get to the other floor. It wasn't technically locked yet. They were just shutting down floor by floor. But I mean, these resources can be invaluable in a college journey. So if you're at home, you might not have the ability to go to a campus library, but that doesn't mean you can't even go to your local libraries.
Right.
And use those resources and use those spaces to help you concentrate and maybe get away. Because sometimes we know like online college students could be juggling a lot. Could be juggling families, other jobs, other people in the household, other roommates. And if you need a place to get away, finding places to help you achieve your goals will only help.
I agree. And speaking on resources for colleges, I think that a lot of resources go underused. And the school that I went to, we had mental health resources. So if individuals wanted to even go to talk to someone about counseling or get psychological services, just I'm experiencing anxiety with my classes, someone help me figure out what to do. We have resources on campus for those individuals, and people could help them develop a plan and say, okay, let's take a deep breath. What's going on? Just having someone who can listen could be very integral for your success as a student. So you got resources to help with mental health. You also have resources oftentimes with colleges that help with physical health. The gym, which can be a great place to blow off some steam, a great place to spend time in between classes, and it's normally included with your tuition as well. So you maybe can throw away your gym membership that you have to the local gym that you go to, that you attended before school. So tons of resources on campus that, like I said, go underused.
And even if you're online or doing a hybrid thing that you can't always get to campus,
you still have those. Many
colleges who offer online programs still have access to mental health, let you know how you can get healthcare if you need it, tutoring services, which sometimes can be peer-to-peer.
Yep.
And a lot of those can also be handled online. So I think the big thing here is getting yourself organized when you get started.
Right.
Regardless of your program, understand where your VIP offices are. And to be honest with you, sometimes this might be the first time you've ever asked for help in any aspect when it comes to help with your studies, help with any healthcare concerns, help with just about anything. This might be the first time, but get it written down so you know where to go or save that information because you could need it.
I agree. And when you talk about organization, my mind immediately jumps to the thing that is probably the most slept on resource when it comes to staying organized, a planner. We've been seeing planners for years. You probably at this point, if you're going to college, been using the planner for a decade. You had to get a planner for school and write down your homework. Maybe your teacher required you to have one, so on and so forth. But I think that having one of those as a college student, continuing that pattern that you've established over the course of time is so valuable. You can just take that planner, and if you use it right, it'll help you solve so many problems that you run into in college.
It will. It'll be a place you can keep important information, a place where you can keep your due dates. And I mean, one of the biggest things I had, I don't know if you experienced this, being at college, it's different than high school.
Yeah.
It's not that people don't care about you. It's, the teacher ratios to students could be astronomical depending on where you go to school. So you don't necessarily have these resources checking in on you.
Right.
Saying, I see you haven't turned in any homework. I see you've been late with the last few papers. I see you're not really speaking up in class. You might not hear about that until you get your grade.
That's so true.
And when you get your grade and you want to then discuss what you can do to improve. You've now had to seek out the help once you already did some damage, and now you need to try to figure out how to fix it.
Right.
So it's just one of those things where, you know, procrastination, not staying on top of what you're doing, planners are super helpful with that.
I agree. And I think that with planners, oftentimes, at least for me, I use them to write down due dates and say, okay, I've got this assignment due on, I don't know, August 25th. I got this other assignment due September, and this other one due right before Thanksgiving break. But I think that if you wanted to take it a step further, depending on what that assignment is and how much time, effort, research is going to take to get that thing done and do it at a high level that will get you the grade that you ultimately want, why not have personal due dates before the actual due dates? What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's necessary. In all honesty, due dates, they're not useless. But when you're doing big projects and trying to get them done, if it's out of sight, out of mind, how are you going to know that's really coming up until you're on that week? You're not, when you put stuff in a planner, at least when I do, I'm not always like flipping ahead to see where I am. And, you know, honestly, a planner can be online, it can be on your
digital,
phone,
yeah.
and then it can be, I like paper ones because I tend to remember things more when I write things down. But honestly, due dates aren't necessarily the most helpful tool when you're dealing with projects or multiple due dates for multiple classes.
Yep.
Milestones are better due dates so that you're staying on track to get something done on time and get it done, like you said, at a level where you're going to get a grade you deserve.
Yeah.
Versus a grade that you get stuck with because you forgot.
Exactly. And if you're someone who's really good at doing stuff at the last minute, or you think you are because you've had success with it.
Nobody's good at that. Let's just be clear. Nobody's really good at that.
I'll put it to you like this. The higher you go in the education realm, the more difficult it is to postpone, procrastinate, do stuff at the last minute, and get a grade that you're proud of, or that your professor is proud of. Because individuals are more bright at the next level, and you putting something together in 30 minutes before class, that's not impressive.
It's not going, very few people can succeed doing it that way in higher ed. Right. When you get to college or above, it's really difficult to do things last minute.
Yeah.
And then also, if you, like we were talking about this before, like there's a lot of classes and there's a lot of programs out there that require you to complete classes in a certain order.
Oh yeah.
And if you're not completing your classes and getting an appropriate grade, guess what? You're retaking that class.
Which is unfortunate, and I can attest to that because I had some individuals that I took classes with. I was a freshman and I was taking a math class, and I recall taking that class with another student who was a nursing major. And she said, I have to get like a C in this class, otherwise I can't even do my nursing program, even though she probably wouldn't have been doing much math in her nursing career. But she was retaking that class simply because I guess she didn't do too well the first go around.
And the honest thing too is when you start retaking classes in college, college comes with a cost.
Say that.
Every credit costs money. And they don't care if you already took it. It still costs money to take it again. It's not their fault you didn't pass. It's generally going to be the student's fault if they didn't pass. And once again, it's not going back to saying colleges don't care about the students. That's not true. They care a lot about their students. But when you're on that level and you're also dealing with probably far more students you've ever dealt with in an education setting before,
absolutely,
it's hard to keep track of every single student and staying on top of them. These professors could have classes of 200 students.
My math class was huge. I think that was my biggest class freshman year, and we had, I want to say, actually I lied. We had about 120 people in that class. I think my history class was like 200 people. And
that's only one class. That professor could have 3 or 4 other of that same class.
Yeah.
3 other groups and sections.
Same semester.
And then not only that, they have other classes they're teaching as well.
Right.
So it's not a lack of care. They will help you if you ask for the help. But if you're just kind of sitting there thinking you're going to get by or figure it out, and at the end of the day you're not, and you have to retake that, you're going to have to pay for it. And I would say that was one of my sleepless nights, was thinking of the financial aspect of college. It's expensive to be there, classes are expensive. Every credit and every class you're paying for.
Right.
So procrastinating, not taking it seriously, maybe doing something the night before and being too tired to go to class, that's honestly all wasting money. And if you're already, fighting and taking loans out and like getting yourself through to pay for college, you're fighting the battle to get there, and now you're adding additional costs to your program, that's just going to make it that much harder.
I agree.
It could add a whole other term, a whole other year, depending on what's going on. And that's not even going to say that you're not going to get stuck in academic probation or have another issue come up that could affect you and actually even put your financial aid at risk.
Thank you for getting to this point in the podcast. As you know, we give you a bonus code with every episode. Use the bonus code SUCCESS, SUCCESS, for 100 points available exclusively on scholarshippoints.com. Remember, you can use those points to enter into our wonderful scholarships. Remember, it's SUCCESS, SUCCESS. You know how to spell it. Now let's get back to the podcast. Yeah, the financial aspect of it is so significant when you think about the fact that you're paying for college and how every class you take, whether you pass or fail, you paid for it. And at that token, it truly is an investment. And when you think about investments, you want to get a return on your money. So your college education is an investment in yourself, in your future. And because it is an investment and it's such a big one, we got to take it seriously the first go around. And I understand that sometimes courses are challenging. Or life happens. I know some people who they had to take organic chemistry and get a specific grade because that was important for them to get into med school. I understand that class is hard because I've seen lots of intelligent individuals struggle to get an A in that class. They're happy with C's sometimes. So I get that. But when we do look at the college experience from a wider lens and we see that we're paying for it, it's so just incumbent on us to really put the work in and not take it for granted.
And I'm not sure students are aware that if you're receiving financial aid to be on campus and you get placed on what's called satisfactory academic progress, probation, you're at risk of
SAP.
Your SAP. Your school has the SAP policy. It's actually controlled by your financial aid. And that SAP policy can be, there is a federal minimum or a federal requirement that the school has to have one as strong as that or more stringent. Your school could have a more strict plan. And if you start falling into not meeting SAP, your standard satisfactory
academic progress.
That's a hard one.
It is.
Satisfactory academic progress, and you get placed on academic probation, you might be justifying to financial aid why you deserve another chance and why you can catch up and get within your SAP policy within a certain period of time, or your school can cut you off from financial aid. And that would cause a headache for a lot of students. It will cause students dropping out. And that alone, could be the end of your journey. Once people kind of get kicked out of school or are unable to meet the requirements of their program, the motivation and essentially how they're feeling could get in the way of them trying again and can put it off for several years. So it's one of those things where I know we're talking about a little bit of the classes, like it all ties together in the end.
Yeah.
And financial concerns can be really real. And before you even get to losing financial aid, say you got a scholarship that's paying for you to be there and you need to have at least
minimum GPA requirements.
And minimum GPA for a lot of scholarships, not all, but a lot of them is a 3.0.
Right. That's a B.
That's a B.
That's a B. The B is the bottom. That's a B.
Yes, and depending on your coursework, if you're pre-med, you could be taking some really difficult courses that are extremely challenging, and it might be easy to have a semester that just doesn't really go your way.
Yeah, it happens.
And now you're begging your scholarship to not cut you off and give you one more try Because, they can have a very strict policy. They could just say, that's it. Sorry. Try again next year, if that's even an option. But financial aspects in higher education success are so strongly tied, because if people typically drop out before the end, the chances of them coming back can be slim to none.
Yeah, that's so true. It can be a challenge, but that's why it's so important that we stay organized, that we have our priorities in place, and that we understand that this is an investment at the end of the day. So just real quick, one thing that you think students should prioritize, if you just had to say, this is the thing that I would focus on going into college, what would you say that would be?
So when it comes to college, I think mine's a bit general, but you have to understand and prioritize your commitment to your education. Everyone's college journey is going to be different. Everyone's going to be at a different life stage. And that's the great thing about college too, is you don't have to do it right out of high school. Some people, work for a bit. Some people have family, other obligations there. But once you commit, you want to make sure you're committing. So your priority needs to be your classwork. And you want to be realistic. You want to be 100% realistic with what your goals are, what your time looks like, and how you can achieve where you want to go. Because there's nothing saying you have to go full time. There's nothing saying you even have to go half time. If you are juggling 4 or 5 things like a family at home, children at home, a job, it could be a full-time job as well, and you're trying to make it all fit together, maybe it's worth it to do it at a slower pace and only take a few courses at a time that you can make it work.
That's a good tip.
But if you are going full-time, you really have to prioritize every single class you're in, and staying organized for me is one of those top priorities to get you there. And I have to throw in the second priority is, making sure you're financially ready to undertake paying for school. You've set your budget, you're staying within your budget, you're not over borrowing to cause other stresses later.
Yep.
You're setting up your financial plan to get you through school. And of course, doing all the other things you need to do for financial aid, your applications on time, looking for scholarships, and having that built into your college plan will really help.
I think that's great. Yeah, the search for financial aid or financial assistance, scholarships, once you get into college doesn't stop. I mean, we just learned from Ryan Kelly that she earned a mass of scholarships after already being in college.
After her freshman year.
Exactly. So even though you've made it to college, or maybe you're a high school student who's about to go into college and you don't have a ton of scholarships to work with, that doesn't mean you can't earn, because like we saw with her, she was able to get tens of thousands of scholarships throughout college, which, like I said, most students, once they get in, they stop thinking about those things.
They stop worrying about it.
But she was able to persevere, recycle that awesome essay that she wrote, have, I don't know how many drafts she said.
You should have about 12 drafts, right?
Yeah, 11 or 12 drafts, and then
it earned her $60,000 plus
off of one scholarship essay. Exactly. So
what would your priority be?
My priority for someone who's in college, it's kind of in the ballpark of yours. I think that for me, if I could go back and talk to myself as who's going into college, I would tell myself, hey, this time is valuable. The courses that you're taking, they're going to help you get your degree and everything. But I think that I would have tried to look more at what I was studying and how that had a larger impact on the world at large. I think that's what I really would have focused on, because now that I've been out of college for 5 years, I do wish that I got a minor. Like I just majored in marketing, but I do wish that I minored in finance. And the reason why I say that is because at this stage in my life, I'm really interested in investing. I love talking about stocks. I love doing some of these things that I wasn't interested in college, or maybe that I just didn't see the value in. So I do think that if I could go back, I would tell myself, hey, don't just look at what you're learning in class, because maybe you're only taking a course that's going to give you the basics or the fundamentals in this area, go a little deeper and see if there's something there that clicks.
And you know what? That's a VIP office stop too, to have these conversations of going to your academic advisor, looking at the classes you're taking, looking at easy ways to minor because of crossover, essentially. Because I bet there would have been just a handful of extra classes you would have had to take to get that minor.
Yeah, just a few.
But it's hard to know that unless you have the conversation. There's a lot of information, even on your own campus, of looking at the catalog and the programs and your different options, and it can feel really overwhelming. But sometimes just talking it out with someone and setting up time, going to your VIP office of your academic advisor, not only can they help you stay on track of what you need to take, and they'll give you an idea of how long it's going to take you to complete your program, but if you're thinking minor or you're just talking out, you know, they talk this out with hundreds of students.
Each semester,
thousands probably over the course of their careers. So they've heard it all, they've seen it all, and they've advised on it all. So they can really help you understand and get into what your goals are and meet them.
Right. Yeah, that's so good. And the last thing I'd say is continue to read books while you're in school. Although I know it's hard. I didn't read very much when I was in college.
Audiobooks.
Yeah, there's great audiobooks, that's true. But when I was in college, I didn't read much because you spend so much time reading for your courses and everything.
Your brain to stop.
Your brain is like, give me a break. Like I see people in the library, they'd be reading fiction and things. I'm like, oh, maybe that's a good break from everything that you're reading for school. But I'd say keep reading. You've got that library at your disposal. Go find something that piques your interest, and then who knows, maybe over the course of reading something, you get some information that you didn't have before, you get an idea, maybe that sparks your career, kind of what you want to study, but use those resources while they're available.
And you know, even if you don't have a library on campus, online, a lot of times you can either get the ebook or you can get the audiobook. And audiobooks are great for car rides, or if you're on campus walking to and from class, you're using that time to really learn something and kind of give yourself a break too, because if it's a fiction book or something else, it could be something fun to hear. The other thing you do is listen to podcasts like ours, Student Life Edvisors podcast.
Oh yes.
On your way to and from classes, and it'll just help fill the time.
I agree. We got lots of time. Sometimes as a college student, I know I had a lot of spare time. But like you said, we talk about procrastinating. Didn't always.
Well, you always make time to procrastinate.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, you make time. Like, oh, let me check this, let me do that. But anyway, I think that those are some good tips on how to stay organized. How do you deal with organization going into college? What are the VIPs, the very important places that you need to get familiar with on campus. I think that those are some great tips as well. And then how important it is to manage those priorities and understand how those are going to vary based on your personal situation and from semester to semester as well. But I think that's a good one. I think we hit the nail on the head there.
And I hope that this is helping someone who's either starting their journey or in the middle of their journey. And this is just a reminder. You tend to learn this stuff as it comes along, but it's just a little reminder.
Right. Yeah, I'm totally on board with that. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Student Life Advisors podcast. We will be back to you soon with another episode.